Hello and welcome to this edition of Wineskins. I'm Father Jim Korda. Wineskins is a program that features reflections on the lives of the saints and the sacred scriptures, along with a variety of issues and topics, all from a Catholic perspective. Wineskins is brought to you through the annual Bishop's Appeal, the Catholic Communication Campaign, and St. Paul's Catholic Books and Gifts, a division of the Society of St. Paul. On our program today, I will interview Sister Anne McManamon. We will also hear more information on St. Mary Magdalene, and today, as the Church celebrates the 16th Sunday in Ordinary Time, we will get a deeper insight into those particular Sunday readings. That and more on Wineskins. Catholic Charities is an important part of the life of the Church and her members. To share with us an important issue is Steve Carattini.
Please and thank you are among the first and perhaps most important words that we will ever learn. To use the word please is to acknowledge our dependence on others. It can be very humbling, which is perhaps why I don't say it often enough. I remember vividly becoming lost in northern Spain while on pilgrimage and asking a complete stranger, "Please, can you show me the way?" At that moment, I had to admit that I needed help, and I needed to overcome my own embarrassment at being lost. And when that help was provided to me, I also needed to say, thank you. I had to acknowledge that someone took the time to stop, listen to my request, and then, very kindly, to share with me the direction I should go. What is true of us individually is equally true for Catholic Charities here in our diocese. Each year, we ask you to please help us in our shared ministry to the poor and most vulnerable in our communities. And each year, you respond with great generosity and kindness, providing our agencies with countless hours of volunteer service, prayers, and financial assistance. And for these gifts of time, talent, and treasure, we must also say thank you. Your expressions of love and solidarity with the poor and those in need give us the opportunity to share the love of God with those who may be temporarily lost on the way. I have had the good fortune and blessing to meet all of our employees and many of our volunteers at Catholic Charities throughout our diocese, and I am grateful for their hard work and dedication. Each year they provide care and consolation to over 40,000 individuals and families, and they do so with great compassion and competence. I ask each of you listening to please pray for the ministry of Catholic Charities, and most especially for the people in our care. Pray that we will continue to carry out our ministry this day and always with humility and gratitude. Thank you. Thank you for your prayers, for your service, and for your financial support. You show us the way. For Wineskins, I'm Stephen Carattini.
St. Mary Magdalene was the first to see the risen Lord. To tell us more is Brother Dominic Calabro of the Society of St. Paul in Canfield. He is also the production assistant at CTNY.
The feast of St. Mary Magdalene, from Magdala, near the Lake of Galilee, has been celebrated on July 22nd since the 10th century at Constantinople in the monastery of St. Lazarus. It was believed that her relics were transferred to that monastery in 899 from Ephesus. In the 11th century, the feast spread throughout the church in the West, and in the 12th century, the Lateran Missal identified Mary Magdalene as Mary of Bethany, whose feast was celebrated by the Greeks on March 18th. The identity of Mary Magdalene is disputed, although many of the Western theologians maintain that Mary of Magdala and Mary of Bethany were one of the same person. Others, such as St. Jerome, St. Ambrose, St. Augustine, and St. Thomas Aquinas, leave the question unresolved. The Greeks, however, distinguished between the two Marys and have separate feasts in their honor. The liturgical texts assert that Christ first entrusted to Mary Magdalene the joyful news of his resurrection. Mary received this testimony from the risen Lord and was told to carry the news to the apostles. "I have seen the Lord," she told them. She is therefore a model for all who are called to give witness to the risen Christ, as we ask in the opening prayer. May we proclaim Christ as our living Lord. In the prayer over the gifts and the prayer after communion, there is another theme, loving worship and her faithful love that kept her close to Christ. St. Gregory the Great says, though the disciples had left the tomb, she remained. She was still seeking one she had not found, and while she sought, she wept. Burning with the fire of love, she longed for him who she thought had been taken away. And so it happened that the woman who stayed behind to seek Christ was the only one to see him. Perseverance is essential to any good deed. In the Gospel according to St. John, we read that Mary Magdalene was so distraught that she did not even recognize the risen Lord when he stood before her. Mary Magdalene, who had been liberated from 7 devils, became such a faithful follower of Christ that her name is placed first in the list of women who accompanied Jesus. And even on Calvary, the faithful Mary Magdalene took her stand beneath the cross. According to Eastern tradition, after Pentecost, Mary Magdalene accompanied the Blessed Virgin Mary and John to Ephesus, where she died and was buried. The example of St. Mary Magdalene's ardent love for Christ, her courageous stance on Calvary, and her profession of faith in the risen Lord are relevant for us also, who have not yet fully understood the Scriptures. For Wineskins, I'm Brother Dominic Calabro.
I'm talking with Sister Ann McManamon. Sister, you've shared with us many of the ministries, in particular education and healthcare, that the Humility of Mary Sisters have been involved with over these many years. One ministry that you're intimately involved with that we'd like to talk about, which is really a celebration, I think, of our diocesan church being involved in that, is the Dorothy Day House. Tell us about that.
Good question. It's perfect. Dorothy Day House is 9 years old as of November of this year, and so we're looking forward to some type of an appropriate celebration of 10 years. The Dorothy Day House reflects who Dorothy Day is and whether or not there will be a canonization. Do not know that, but there is a desire split down the middle, because her feeling always was that Don't Call Me a Saint, a famous book that she has about herself, is an indication of her belief that we're all called to sanctity. And that if you place one person on a pedestal, you're going to lose a lot of other people. You're going to be in trouble. Dorothy Day House is about one of 240 right now, and they spread over the United States, and they're also in Europe. The Dorothy Day House always has 2 major goals. One is a type of charity or love that compares with nothing else you've ever known. And so, how do you do that? In our case, that's a meal in the evening. We're the only ones in the diocese or in the Youngstown area that offers dinner at night. We're the only ones who use silver that gets stolen every other week. We're the only ones that uses china and glasses. And that's very elevating. And that's very much a sign of your trust and your love, even though I kill them when they steal them. But still, it is a beautiful thing. So we do have that meal at night, and we do, toward the end of a month, we would be usually taking in about 100. The other side of the dinner is the garden, and that was always a belief on Peter Morin's part, as well as Dorothy's, that if you didn't have a farm or a garden, and the person who was in trouble didn't get down and put their hands in the dirt, they wouldn't begin to know what real life is about. So that is ours too. We have a beautiful garden, and we're right on Belmont Avenue, which is the center of downtown. No matter how much is developed down there, it's good that we're sitting in the middle of the undeveloped. And that's true. That's a truth no matter which way. The other thing I would have to say about a Dorothy Day House that's absolutely essential is, if you have great love and you have a sense of hospitality that overwhelms, you'll get a lot of people in there, but a lot of people that have terrible needs, a terrible variety of needs. And so it's your job, if you're organizing and pulling the Dorothy Day together, to make sure that the other side of the coin is, are you dealing with some unmet injustice that's in your area or in the world? One of the things we deal with regularly is the injustice that prevails between the lawmakers in our city and the people sitting in front of us at dinner. And so trying to establish a love relationship is really a toughie, but we work at it. And one of the things is begging for the police to drive through our lot and go out the other driveway. Just, you don't even have to stop, just do it. But more importantly, like we put on a big picnic every year, and we're doing that, I think, the 16th or 17th of August. And we invite all of the city lawmakers, but most importantly, the police in the city. Getting them to sit down is a hard job. Sure. But if they sit down and break bread, they are halfway there with all of our people. And once in a while, you've got some people that do that. But I have a question as to how that happens. What injustices do we try to deal with? As a house, we've worked very hard for 3 years on trafficking. And we have at least 9 people prepared through the Cleveland office to go out and really present to people what trafficking really is and why are we number 4 in the United States for trafficking? How is this happening? And I find when I go out that people are shocked. They know it exists, they know it's south of the border, but they do not believe that it's so rampant right here in Youngstown or Cleveland. We did a prayer day a few weeks ago, and we did it every half hour to the nighttime. And the first person that came in, I rejoiced because I know her well, and I didn't think she'd ever come. But she came in right away at a few minutes before 9 and sat down. We had a really nice section all fixed up. She said to me, I said, "Oh, I'm so glad you're here." And she said back to me, "You're the reason I'm here." And she started to weep, and she cried and cried. And so her life has been the worst of the trafficking type syndrome. And how do you get out of it? No, not easy. Right. Not easy ever. And how much companionship and consolation do you need? We need it badly in Youngstown. We're number 4. There must be something big happening here that we need to deal with. So that's a snippet of the way things are. And as far as what I experience with Dorothy Day, I think when I look at this diocese, I think of a diocese that's always been known for extraordinary strength and uniqueness in its approach. And I go back to even buying the steel mills. And, you know, we're going to work with this problem. We're going to deal with it. I think that's why we don't have a Dorothy Day house, because it would be the thing to do, buy those steel mills. But what I find now is that the interest on the part of the priests of the diocese, on the part of the parishes, on the part of the people in general is overwhelming. They love coming. They love being servers. There aren't enough making dinners, but there are some very beautiful restaurants in the Youngstown area that donate. 2 in particular that donate 1 meal a month, 12 meals a year, that very costly for them personally. But they do it out of real devotion and love to the poor. Come and do haircuts and come and, you know, music, and it's a great place to be. It's hard, but it's great.
Well, Sister, unfortunately, at the end of our discussion, we love having you on our show. We thank you for the input that you've shared with us about the humility of Mary Sisters, but also about the wonderful work that you're doing and your folks are doing at Dorothy Day House. Please know of our prayers, our best wishes, and we look forward to celebrating the 10th anniversary of Dorothy Day House here in the Diocese of Youngstown with you.
Thanks, Father, very much.
And thank you for being with us. Have a good day, and God be with you.
For more pertinent information and to listen to Wineskins, visit www.doi.org, the website of the Catholic Diocese of Youngstown. Stay with us. We'll be back in a moment.
They say America is a land of opportunity.
But for some of us,
it's not so easy.
Today, 1 out of every 6 children in America lives in poverty,
where every day is hard.
and there's never enough.
But we don't want a handout. We want a way out.
This is America.
Together, we can do so much.
Will you help?
Nearly 13 million children live in poverty. Make a difference. Go to povertyusa.org and get involved. A message from the Catholic Campaign for Human Development.
33 million Americans have descended into poverty. And as their futures fall, so does our nation's.
Our song today is from the CD called Rebuilding the Temple of Praise. It is by Living Praise Worship Team.
Surrendering
As we celebrate the 16th Sunday in Ordinary Time, we will hear more about the sacred scriptures by Deacon Ed Laubacher. He is from St. Paul Church in North Canton.
Are you a Martha or a Mary? Can you slow down long enough to spend time with people, to listen to them, to ask questions, to hear their story? Or do you always seem to be on the move, always solving the next problem, accomplishing the next task, marking items off the checklist? Many years ago, the country music group Alabama recorded a song titled, "I'm in a Hurry." The lyrics that spoke to me were the following: I'm in a hurry to get things done. I rush and rush till life no fun. All I gotta do is live and die, but I'm in a hurry and don't know why. I know which one of these two women I am most like, and I don't like this characteristic about myself all the time. Oh, sometimes it is good. Someone has to get things accomplished. There are great needs in our world, and some people get more done than others. Blame it on my dad if you want. He taught me a good work ethic. He taught me sometimes you just have to keep getting tasks accomplished. My mom also was amazing with everything she could accomplish in a day. But I also recognize that my dad started every day at the feet of the Lord. He started every day by attending 6:15 a.m. Mass. Moreover, my mom found time to pray and read Scripture daily, and she took care of so many people. You see, I am one of 12 children. My mom was one busy person. I believe most people have a bit of Martha and a bit of Mary inside each one of us. In some situations, one or the other wins out. But I do know that I am much more like Martha. Too often on the go, often keeping myself too busy to slow down and spend time with people. We are presented with two readings today that seem to focus on hospitality, that reveal an incredibly important visitor and how these visitors are treated. Our first reading from Genesis shows Abraham realizing that the Lord was present in his midst, in the physical presence of the messengers he had sent. Here, Abraham is completely focused on his guests, in making them comfortable and allowing them to rest and recover. He does all he can for these three individuals who are representing the Lord himself. We then contrast this with Martha in our gospel, who is also totally focused on hospitality, while her sister sits at the feet of the Lord. We may find these situations a bit confusing. What is going on here? Why are these two situations looked on so differently? Hospitality is an incredibly important part of the culture of the Middle East. Tending to visitors, making them feel welcome, taking care of their needs is of utmost importance, and Abraham and Sarah go to great lengths to do this for their guests. Abraham showed great reverence for his guests, and also was able to take time to communicate with them, and certainly received an incredible reward for his diligence, the promise of an heir, a son to pass on his name. On the other hand, we have Martha, who is also waiting on her guests, but is only focusing on their physical needs. She has lost sight of who her heavenly guest is, and is only focusing on the temporal. Conversely, Mary is completely focused on Jesus, on his teaching, on her Lord's physical presence with her. I believe the Lord is telling us that we have to spend time with him, that this must be our first priority. We must listen to him speaking to us. We must receive his Spirit through prayer and the Eucharist. This is what gives us the strength to be able to be hospitable to others, to be patient and listen, to give back the strength we feel. We cannot give to others what we ourselves do not have. Therefore, we must spend time with our Lord, feel his love, his mercy, his understanding, and only then are we able to give these wonderful gifts to others. For Wineskins, I'm Deacon Ed Laubacher.
Who among us can look at the cross of Christ and complain about our lot in life? That one fact should make all the difference in the world. There really is no room for self-pity in the presence of the cross of Christ. Wineskins is a production of CTNY, the Catholic Telecommunications Network of Youngstown. It is brought to you by the Annual Bishop's Appeal, the Catholic Communication Campaign, and St. Paul's Catholic Books and Gifts. I'm your host, Father Jim Korda, wishing you a beautiful week.
What have you done for your marriage today?
I gave my wife a hug this morning. I told her I love her.
I did her hair this morning. I think it looks pretty good.
I cooked my husband's favorite breakfast.
I bought her an orchid.
What have I done for my marriage today? I sent my husband a love email.
I read the newspaper to my wife, and it cracked her up. But she's still laughing.
What have you done for your marriage today? Make a change for the better. Need help? Go to foryourmarriage.org, a message from the Catholic Church.
They say America is the land of opportunity, but for some, life isn't so easy. Right now in America, 1 in 6 children lives below the poverty line. That's nearly 13 million children of all races, all across our country. Where do you draw the line and get involved? You can make a difference in more ways than you think. Go to povertyusa.org today, because 1 in 6 children in poverty is one too many. A message from the Catholic Campaign for Human Development.